Okay, so this week we are starting our discussion on specific expository modes. So we will be looking at the analysis by division first off. Also, in the materials on Canvas this week was a tutorial on sentences, function of a sentence, and nouns. So taking a closer look at nouns. Right? So we will stroll through what's on Canvas, and then we will have one group activity, then open up for questions and comments. Okay?
Sure.
Right? So, like I said, this week we are looking at the analysis by division. We have 2 weeks with this mode. The first one takes a little getting used to thinking of writing in such a structured way. So we get 2 weeks to play around with it. So what we want to look at is identifying the main features of an analysis by division, the kind of vocabulary that's used. On your own, you would read the samples and try and analyze what's going on, the structure as well as the content. We will also do vocal delivery. So when we covered vocalics, this is an expansion of our discussion on vocalics. And there are some parts of speech and sentence construction tutorials as well. Right. So for those of you who got to see the material before class, what is an analysis by division? Essie. Anyone?
Breaking it down into smaller parts and putting it into groups.
Right, so yes, it's breaking something down into smaller components. And then what we do with these smaller components? It's kind of in the title. Analysis by division.
Yep. Yeah, so you divide the smaller parts.
You break it down into the smaller parts, and then you analyze the smaller parts.
Yes, right? So really analysis by division is where you take the large unit, break it down into its 3 biggest sections, and explain each section so that you could then explain how the entire thing works, right? So it's identifying something that's complex, like the governing structure of a country, a university, international church, and so on. So these are concrete things. They're organizations, they're institutions, right? But we will split into the pieces, explain the pieces, and by explaining the pieces, we explain the whole. So let's take, for example, a university. A university has several departments, several different functioning offices, including how they classify their staff, right? So, but the university functions as an entire entity. So the first thing you want to do is identify what the primary function of the university is, right? We call this primary function the controlling principle. And we call it a controlling principle because it will determine how you make your divisions. It will control how the overall, the whole unit, the whole entity operates, as well as how you will go about explaining each component fitting together to make the whole thing operate. Right? So once you find out what the controlling principle is, you then you decide what the divisions are. So each separate piece we call the division. Right? This is determined by the controlling principle. So let us say, for example, university is an educational institution. That is its primary function. That's what we call the controlling principle of a university. This is what any university has to do. It has to function as an educational institution. So we might look at then the three ways in which a university functions as an educational institution. So it offers academics, it offers athletics, and then there is administrative support. So you see in our circles, each division, we have academics, such as classroom instruction and research, athletics, sporting activities, physical therapy, health classes, and administration, doing research grants, helping students matriculate, helping them sort out how they attend, how they go about their day at the university. So we start with this overarching topic, this unit. For in this example, it's a university. We identify what the university's primary function is, and we call that the controlling principle. The primary function we're seeing for this example, the university is an educational institution. It provides education, right? And we could look at education in its broader sense. Literally means leading out of darkness, educat. And so an institution that's dedicated to making a educational impact on its community. So that's an educational institution. It does this through academics, athletics, and administration. So these would be our divisions. All right, this is another way to look at it, a more visual way. So we see here the whole unit is a big circle, it's a Venn diagram. The controlling principle is what connects the three divisions. Afternoon, right? So in this example, they're looking at a learning resource center at a university. So what that would entail is a library, a tutoring center, and a technology learning center, right? The core function is providing learners with extra resources to help them through in their university life. So we can tutor one-on-one. We can offer a library where you go and do your research, or if you need technological help, we have a technology learning center. And since everything is going online nowadays, technology learning center is becoming a very important division in a learning resource center. some of the language you would see: components, elements, parts, kinds, areas, stages, or types. Anything that indicates a smaller subsection or division of a larger organization, entity, idea, etc., right? And when you are planning your ABD, this is a handy guide to help you brainstorm your topic and find out, how you will approach it. So this is something you can look at when it's time to do your assignment. There are some more descriptions. Again, you can see you start with a big topic and you split it into its 2 or 3 main subtopics. Then you split it down. Each subtopic you can split again. So if you're thinking of the 5-paragraph essay, you have a topic, your thesis statement. The subtopics become your topic sentences, and the categories under each subtopic becomes the supporting points in each paragraph.
Outline for a 5-paragraph classification and division essay. In a basic 5-paragraph classification and division essay, you will follow a traditional structure common to most academic essays. You will have an introduction, plus body paragraphs, plus your conclusion. In this example outline for a classification and division essay, we will use the topic Higher Education and Technology. A classification and division thesis that might work well within that topic would be: many students would not be able to achieve the dream of a college education without the advances of technology, which allows them to take courses in various formats. Now we will take a look at how we could outline our introduction using our thesis with the goal of writing a classification and division essay. A good introduction provides background on a topic, transitions to the thesis, and then presents the thesis. In this example, we would first provide background on the topic of technology in higher education. Next, we would transition to our thesis and make the divisions for our essay clear by providing a summary of various course formats. We would then describe the choices within those formats the students have. Finally, we would transition to our thesis. It is important to note, as you think about creating a classification and division essay, you should think about the major divisions for your essay and then potential subcategories within those divisions. When you think about division, think about how you might divide your whole topic, then think about possible additional categories within those divisions. The body paragraph for our essay on technology and education could easily be organized into the different major divisions for the essay: courses in person, courses at a distance, and courses that combine both face-to-face and distance instruction. However, it is important to remember we are not simply going to list everything we know about these divisions. Instead, we should remember that our body paragraphs should focus on proving our thesis about how each category uses technology to help make college possible. A good conclusion will generally reinforce information from the body of the essay and remind readers of the thesis. In the outline for our conclusion, we might begin by summarizing the impact of technology, make connections to each of our categories, and then reaffirm our thesis. When we reaffirm our thesis, we will not state the same sentence exactly, but we will emphasize our point using different words.
So let me just add here that in a formal outline, you don't need to outline the introduction and the conclusion. In a formal outline, you start with your thesis statement. So you're only looking at the thesis through and the body paragraphs. Right. This is another guide and some tips that you can look at. Highlighted here, of course, so for you to take note of, do not make your thesis too complicated. And it should be a sentence. Try and get your thesis statement into one sentence, right? So again, you can go through this, but it's repeating the information on what an analysis by division is. This is the sample reading. And what I like about the sample that you can read at on your own time as well, what I like about the sample is that it's annotated. So it really helps you to look at what the writer is doing. So not just the content, but what the writer is actually doing and why the writer is doing it. Right. So when you look at it larger, you will see that they have given you comments so that you could understand the functions and the sections in the essay. This is a template that you can use in writing your outline. So like I said, the formal outline starts with your thesis statement. Your thesis statement, as we should have gone through before, it has a claim and then your supporting points or your reasons for making that claim. Then you would plot out each body paragraph. Topic sentence should be a complete sentence, and you will pull it from the reasons you make the claim, right? So if we're going back with the idea that university is an educational a university is an educational institution that provides through its academic I had a nice one, you know, I said it better. University functions as an educational institution through its academics, athletics, and administration. So first topic sentence with the university facilitates education through academia or academics. My subpoint might be classroom instruction, so dealing with students, conducting research and making an impact on different disciplines and fields that way, and even offering public lectures to people, to the general public, going out and providing education to the general public. My next topic sentence then would be something like, the university also educates people in terms of their physicality and their health. So they have, and this is through their athletic program. So they have sports, school sports, they have physical education, health classes, and so on. So again, educating people about their body and about their health. And the third, none of this would be possible. So a university would not be able to function as an educational system, institution, if it did not have strong administrative support, right? And then I will explain how the administration helps the university be an educational institution. So they help students matriculate through classes, remind them when to pay their fees, remind them when things are due, help them with their transcript, get transcripts once they graduate, and so on, keeps them on track. They also help secure grants and funding for research. So when we go back, we talk about the idea that the university is the home of research and its academics, research, and add to the discourse. The administration helps academics source money to make to do that research. And third, in terms of facilitating public access to the educational materials. So running libraries, hosting public events, and so on. Your administration is in charge of organizing those things. So by explaining the three separate divisions, I then explain why a university is an educational institution. So for your outline, we're only doing the thesis and the 3 body paragraphs. All right. There are some more links. Oh, I think those are the same links. And let's go through specifically writing an outline for an ABD. So just to remind you, the ABD is taking one large unit and breaking it down into its individual pieces so that you can explain what the large unit does. Right. So to do this, again, we have to find what the controlling principle of the main unit or the unit as a whole is. What is its function? And when we discover what the function is or identify what the function is, we break it down into its separate divisions. So you must decide, and you could use any charting you want. This is two handy models you can use to help you identify what the controlling principle is, and then from the controlling principle, break out what each division is. When you identify a controlling principle and divisions, make sure you have enough information, examples, evidence to help flesh out your paper. If you don't, if you can't find enough, you might have to go back to the drawing board and reassess and do it over. So all this is pre-writing. We haven't started writing an essay yet. But by the time you start writing the essay, it will be sockeye. Right? So you can try different methods of brainstorming to come up with ideas to help flesh out what you're trying to say. Listing, for example, where you take a blank sheet of paper, put down your topic, and just list all the things you think of about that topic. Mapping, it's more visual, it's more of a drawing style, where you can draw out, create your own map of how the topic flows, what is interesting about the topic. Clustering takes your idea and you start to branch out from that main thought, all the other little thoughts that pop out of it. So by the time you have your controlling principle and your divisions, you might write your controlling principle on top. That branches out to the 3 divisions. And from the 3 divisions, I might cluster different thoughts for each division so that I get a visual a visual representation of how I can break down the topic. So these help you really just flesh out your thoughts and ideas. So once you've gotten a rough sketch of your paper, you can now attempt an outline. So now that you've thought fully about your topic, you can come up with a thesis statement. You could come up with a way of organizing your essays, right? So let's look at it in a generic form. So your thesis will say something like, the controlling principle is best understood when we analyze its divisions, or the controlling principle is comprised of its divisions, or something like that, that shows that what you're talking about is an entire unit, and how we understand the entire unit by explaining the different components. So each paragraph then becomes a description or an explanation of a division. Each division gets its own paragraph. So let's look at a concrete example. So we're starting with, to understand communication, we should examine its three media: written, oral, and nonverbal. So the controlling principle here, as we looked at the model of communication. So communication is a system of sending a message from a sender to a receiver. And we talked about the system going, you pick your medium and then you send your message. So we're looking at how communication works by explaining how it works in the written medium, oral medium, and nonverbal medium. So my first topic sentence would look at written communication and explain what written communication is. So written communication entails all text transmitted from a sender to a receiver that uses written symbols of a language. And I will then explain what that medium entails. So it's the most regulated form of communication. It relies very heavily on grammar and syntax rules. It tends to be more formal, is usually more restrictive because it's not a skill everybody has. And so it's often used in society to restrict access to certain things. And it's usually planned out in advance. It's the newest form of communication. Most cultures started with oral and visual communication. So now, having explained that, people get a general idea of, oh, well, okay, well, this is communication in a written form. And it is about sending a message and how that message is sent in a written form. Okay, I get that. And then the second paragraph, we will look at oral communication. So while writing is relatively new, oral communication, when the sender transmits through speech to the receiver, is much older, right? So I'm explaining now another way of communicating. It's less regulated. It allows for performance errors. The grammar rules aren't as hard and fast, except if you're talking to the queen. And we tend to use more idioms and slang, slurrer words, etc., etc. It can be restrictive, just like written communication, because people judge you on the way you speak. They will assume, when we talked about registers and how registers function, how people judge you based on the register you use in a particular moment. So people will judge you by the way you speak. And it is more frequent and impromptu than written. So if I'm in a party and I want to tell you something, I will tell you. I won't write it out. I won't try and think and write out the perfect message. I will simply tell you. Very interestingly though, younger people prefer to text and talk on the phone. So we're seeing some shifts there in terms of communication. And then the third body paragraph would look at the third division in communication. So another form of communication is nonverbal, when the sender uses body language and visual aids to transmit messages to the receiver. So I'm now explaining a third way of communicating. And I'm stressing as I go along that communication is sending a message from a sender to a receiver. Here we use body language, and it's usually unconscious. Visual aids like pictures and videos, how you dress, the kind of gestures you use to communicate. All these things also form or inform the message that the sender gives to the receiver, transmits to the receiver. And again, you can go through these and at your own pace to refresh if you haven't seen them already. If you have seen them, I hope going through them with you help clarify anything, but we'll also have question and answer so you can ask away if you need further clarification. The next major thing we are looking at this week is vocal delivery. So when we were talking about vocalics last week, so this is an extension of that, or this is us driving down even further to talk about vocal delivery and vocalics. And this is especially important if you have to give a presentation or a formal speech somewhere. Knowing how to manipulate these things can enhance your impact on your audience. So we talked a little bit before about rate, how quickly you speak, right? So here we're talking about how fast or how slow you choose to speak. Usually when you speak quickly, it conveys a certain level of confidence because you know what you're going to say. When you speak slowly, it usually conveys that you are indecisive, uninterested, or unprepared, right? So usually when you ask, it's like you've noticed this, if you ever spring a question on your friend, a really big question, and they start to hem and haw, and then they very slowly give a response because you're thinking about it as they speak. So especially in a formal setting, if you're giving a speech or a presentation, that slowness could suggest that you are not prepared, you're fishing for words, you don't know what to say. So being aware of your rate is also important. If you speak quickly, if you're naturally a fast talker, you might need to slow down if you really want to communicate. We know, and this will tie us into volume, it's almost a cliche now in movies and TV shows when a character encounters somebody who does not speak their language, they will slow down and speak loudly as if that helps the communication, right? But that's a natural instinct. So we are slowing down so you can hear every word, and probably raising the volume because we want to add emphasis, and it could be a little bit of frustration as well. So when we talk about volume, of course, that's how loud or soft your voice is in the situation. And we talked before about how you accent your speech by raising the volume on certain words or dropping the volume. So for example, in a setting like this, if I drop my voice and I lean in closer, you have to lean in closer to pay attention to what I'm saying. So I'm actually slowing you down and calling attention to myself by dropping my volume. Likewise, if I'm saying something and I increase the volume for that certain word, it expresses maybe passion, calls attention to that word, and shifts your attention again. So playing with the volume of your voice in terms of vocal delivery, knowing when to do it, it can enhance your presentation or your speech. Pitch is partly out of our control, but it is also something we can play with. Pitch is how high or how low your voice is. Some people have a naturally high pitch, they speak high up like Minnie Mouse all the time. Some people have a low pitch. They speak very low down in their gut. And a patriarchal society such as ours, we tend to favor lower pitches. We tend to think lower pitches are more serious, especially in men. When we get excited, our pitch goes up. If we're talking to little children, our pitch goes up. If we want to be very serious and somber, we bring down our pitch. So you can play with how high or how low your voice is. Which, when we combine those things, gives us vocal variety. So combining the speed at which you speak, the volume at which you speak, the pitch, just went out, right? And so forth, help you to convey without using the words themselves. So again, paralinguistic, non-verbal, non-word, non-language communication, but it can enhance your message. Other things to look for would be clarity, and we achieve clarity through articulation. So articulation is how we produce the sounds for the words we make. And in English, there are certain actual physical configurations of your mouth and your vocal cord to make sound. Now, for example, when we're in informal settings, you might say something like "wapn" or "igil." We are not actually taking the time to put our tongue and teeth in the proper positions to enunciate each letter. In a more formal setting, we might say "what happened." Now, to form the T, you take the tip of your tongue and you press it to the top of your mouth right behind your teeth, right? That's how you get the T sound. To form the P, you have to close your lips and pop them open, and that's how you get the P sound as you expel breath. And the H is a H, so it's expelling breath with your mouth open and relaxed, right? So there's a difference. Articulation is actually paying attention to the physical way you produce the words, and that leads to clarity, right? I won't go 100% into it. This comes from linguistics and phonetics, how we pronounce words. When we talked about the regional differences in English, for example, Americans do not say what, they don't say their T in the middle of a word, they say D. So it's a different articulation. The letters are very close in your mouth, where you put your tongue between a T and a D are very close enough. One is a little further back, the D is a little further back from your teeth. But when we're in an informal setting, we tend to slur more, we tend not to articulate as clearly because we expect our listeners to fill in information by context. In a formal speech, you need to articulate. Once upon a time, if you were in a choir, it would make you stand up in front of a mirror and actually do the shapes of each sound so that you would know the where to put what to make the sound. So that's something you can practice if you want to work on your articulation. Pay attention to where you put your tongue in relation to your teeth, if your lips need to be closed to pronounce it, and so on and so on. Another aspect is pronunciation. And here, again, you're looking at knowing the common pronunciation in your region. Some regions, the example they have here is Caribbean. Americans say Caribbean. So we put the stress on words in different places. Pronunciation helps your message come across more clearly. If you pronounce words in a way people don't understand, they will not understand you. They might get more distracted by how you pronounce a word than what you're actually trying to say. Fluency refers to the flow of your speech. Some people are very eloquent and they flow naturally and they can go from sentence to sentence and make their points with nary a pause, or what they call a fluency hiccup, unintended pausing, either because you are unprepared or you're distracted. And we tend to fill those pauses with nonverbal cues like or saying words that don't add to the meaning. I'm not sure what the young people use now. It used to be like. Every other word was punctuated with like, but I'm not sure what you young folk use now. But these are called verbal fillers. So again, your fluency is affected by lack of preparation. If you write a speech, for example, but you don't write a speech to like it's going to be read to people, because there is a difference in the tone you would use if you're writing for someone to read and if you're writing to deliver it as an address, right? And you might be distracted. So these are some of the things that could cause fluency hiccups. Again, it's here so you can read it at your leisure more slowly and absorb it. But these are some of the things to look out for in vocal delivery. So volume, rate, pitch, fluency, articulation, pronunciation. These are some of the things that impact how you as a speaker, how you are received, and how you as a listener gets the message from the speaker. Right, so this has some shorter explanations as well. It's like a cheat sheet, and also some exercises you can work on to improve your public speaking. Right, so let's take a look at an example. Let me see.
Her Royal Highness now hands over the constitutional instruments to the Prime Minister, who in turn replies.
May it please your Royal Highness, it is with a feeling of deep pride, pleasure and satisfaction as Prime Minister of the newly independent state of Trinidad and Tobago that I offer you for transmission to Her Majesty the Queen the profound thanks and appreciation of the government, Parliament and people of this country for Her Majesty's gracious message. We have looked forward with considerable pleasure to our entry into the Commonwealth family. Now that this goal has been achieved, I ask you to convey to Her Majesty an expression of our unfailing loyalty and devotion to her throne and person. We have been inspired by her good wishes and we pledge ourselves to fulfill the promise expected of us, not only by Her Majesty, but by all the nations of the world, to show how our small community, with its people drawn from many lands, of diverse racial origins, and subscribing to a variety of religious beliefs, can, in harmonious cooperation, make its contribution to the sum total of world peace, world progress, and world happiness. May I conclude by expressing the hope that this visit of yours to our shores, which is not the first, will certainly not be the last, and that we shall have on some future occasion the opportunity to display once more the esteem and affection in which you are held by the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and to demonstrate to you the contributions which we have set out to make to world democracy and to the defense and protection of human freedom.
The leader of the opposition, Dr. Capildale, now speaks.
May it please Your Royal Highness to accept our sincerest thanks from this side of the House for the signal honor you have so graciously bestowed upon us by being present among us on this unforgettable occasion. It is fitting that at this historic moment, independence is heralded with the adornment and luster of British parliamentary democracy, and that it is dedicated to the British parliamentary tradition. Every such dedication is a barrier which evil minds will have to surmount in order to advance into totalitarian paths. Nevertheless, we enter the future with high hopes and with unbounded confidence in ourselves, we and the other side of the House.
The ceremony is ended. Parliament is inaugurated, and independent Trinidad and Tobago has become the 15th member of the Commonwealth of Nations. What now are our responsibilities?
The first responsibility that devolves upon you is the protection and promotion of your democracy. Democracy means more, much more, than the right to vote, and one vote for every man and every woman of the prescribed age. Democracy means recognition of the rights of others. Democracy means the equality of all in the eyes of the law. Democracy means equality of opportunity for all in education, in the public service, and in private employment. I repeat, and in private employment. Democracy means responsibility of the government to its citizens, the protection of the citizens from the exercise of arbitrary power and the violation of human freedom and individual rights. Democracy means freedom of worship for all and the subordination of the rights of any one race to the overriding right of the human race. Democracy means freedom of expression and assembly and organization. All that is democracy. All that is our democracy, to which I call upon all citizens to dedicate themselves on this our Independence Day. This is what I meant when I gave the nation as its slogan for all time: discipline, production, tolerance. Our national flag belongs to all of us. Our national coat of arms with our national birds inscribed therein is the sacred trust of all our citizens. So it is today. Please, I urge you, let it always be so. Let us always be able to say with the psalmist, "Behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity."
Discipline, production, tolerance. These are our goals. Discipline, both personal and collective. Greater production at all levels. Tolerance of the other's point of view or religion or social custom.
Right, so this is an example of vocal delivery. We have 3 examples in this video. You have the narrator, you have Dr. Eric Williams, and you have Capilio, the leader of the opposition. And in each case, what you hear registered is a formality in terms of their vocal delivery. So they do not play as much with pitch. They do emphasize using volume. And because the speeches are prepared in advance, there's a lovely fluency for most of them. They do not pause unintentionally. Where they pause, you sense that it's an intentional pause for effect. The other videos you can go through, this is a discussion. So you can go through and really look at how the speakers use vocal delivery for good or for bad. We have examples of impressive or exemplary. We have examples of not so good, right? So looking at how they use their vocal delivery, the vocal delivery tactics, and whether we believe these people, how credible they are, and so on. Any questions so far? Okay.
No.
The other thing we look at for this week, tutorials. Hello? Okay.
Welcome to week 3 tutorial. Tutorial, we will discuss 2 things, sentence types and paragraph structure. It is split up into 2 sections. This first section will be on sentences. At the end of this tutorial, you will be able to explain what a phrase, clause, and sentence are. Identify the different types of sentences. Outline the structure of an effective paragraph. Write an effective paragraph. This is a required tutorial for week 3 activities. So first, let's look at phrases, clauses, and sentences, or what I'd like to call the building blocks of your writing. Make sure you have a pen and paper handy so you can take notes. Remember, writing your notes helps you remember it even better. Now let's look at the building blocks. The smallest unit of communication in any language is the letter. We make phonemes out of letters, and that's the smallest unit of meaning. We make words out of phonemes. What is the next component of communication? If you guessed the phrase, then give yourself a round of applause. So what exactly is a phrase? According to this definition, a phrase is a group of words that belong together in terms of meaning, but do not have both a subject and a verb. This group of words can act as one word or one part of speech. Therefore, you have the noun phrase, which acts like a noun. It may contain a pronoun. The verb phrase, which acts as the verb. An adjective phrase, which acts as an adjective. An adverb phrase, which acts as adverbs. And a prepositional phrase, which shows the position of something. The next unit of meaning is the clause. We combine phrases to make a clause. Note the main difference between a phrase and a clause. Remember, the phrase has no subject and a verb, while the clause has both a subject and a verb. In the examples given here, we have the subject, verb, and what they call the complement, or subject, verb, and object. By definition, a clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a predicate, or a verb. There are two categories of clauses: independent and dependent. The independent clause can stand on its own. It expresses a complete thought. The dependent clause, however, cannot stand on its own, does not express a complete thought, and usually indicates that that clause is subordinate to the independent clause. You will notice that the independent clause functions as a complete sentence, while a dependent clause cannot. There are three basic types of sentences: simple, which is an independent clause; compound, which is an independent clause joined to an independent clause; or complex, which is an independent clause joined to a dependent clause. Here's another explanation for you. A simple sentence makes sense on its own and usually gives one piece of information. For example, it was raining. The compound joins both simple sentences. It was raining is a simple sentence. I took my umbrella is a simple sentence. You notice in this example, it is joined by a conjunction, so. It can also be joined by a semicolon. The complex takes the dependent clause and the independent clause. Sometimes, if the dependent clause is first, it is usually joined to the independent clause with a comma. If the dependent clause is after the independent clause, you usually do not need punctuation. Now let's look at sentence functions. In addition to the three types, simple, compound, and complex, we should also consider what the sentence is supposed to do. We use our sentences to make a statement. This is called a declarative sentence. Here are some examples of declarative sentences. We also use our sentences to issue a command. This is called an imperative sentence. Here are some examples of imperative sentences. And we also use our sentences to ask a question. This is called an interrogative sentence or interrogative sentence. There are two types. An interrogative sentence either demands a yes or no answer, or is meant to get an answer that says what, where, which, who, whom, when, why, whose, or how. Of the three, declarative, imperative, and interrogative, it is best to use the declarative sentence to show cause and effect or make a comparison. And what do we mean by cause and effect? You can either show how a cause leads to an effect. See the examples of structure over here. Or how an effect is caused. If you're doing a comparison or a contrast, you can introduce your comparison to your audience. During your paragraph, and to conclude.
So let's look a little bit more at we're doing that now. Go. Oh, I forgot to include them here. So talk about a fluency hiccup. Okay. I have two other things to look at. I thought they were in here, but I guess not. So I want to look a little bit more at sentence functions and then to go over the noun part of speech, right? To look specifically at nouns. So we looked at parts of speech in general. So let's start looking at, nouns in particular. And actually, easiest way for this. Right. So we talked about the 8 parts of speech before. This specifically looks at the first part of speech in noun. that was nouns.
Welcome back. This is week 3 tutorial part 2. Let's look at paragraphs. Now that we have basic sentences down pat, it's time to look at what we use them for. We use sentences to build paragraphs. Duh. There are 3 parts to a paragraph. The topic sentence or opening sentence, which tells your reader the main idea of your paragraph. Supporting sentences, which help you develop that idea. And a concluding clincher sentence, which brings it all home by restating the main idea. Let's look at the topic sentence. The topic sentence opens your paragraph and sets the tone. It should represent the main idea of the paragraph. Note that a paragraph has one main idea. Now the supporting sentences. The supporting sentences provide evidence for your topic sentence. They help you flesh out the main idea. Do not stray from your main idea. I often recommend at least 5 to 6 supporting sentences so that your paragraph would have about 8 sentences altogether. Minimum. The last sentence is your concluding or clincher sentence, and it should do 2 things. Restate the main idea, provide a transition for the next paragraph. Here's an example of a paragraph where I've separated the topic sentence, supporting sentences, and the concluding sentence. Take a minute to read. Notice an example how the topic sentence tells us how Brian is a bad student. All the supporting sentences tell us how Brian is disruptive, inattentive, and rude. Notice how each supporting sentence is grouped and linked. All the disruptive sentences, all the sentences that support Brian is disruptive are grouped together. All the sentences that support Brian is inattentive are grouped together. And all the sentences that support Brian is rude are grouped together. Notice how the concluding sentence restates the main idea with synonyms or synonymous phrases. Disruptive, continuous outbursts, inattentive, inability to focus, and rude, bullying behavior.
So let's look a little bit more at sentence functions. So let's look at it a little more elaborately. So you use sentences to make declarative, interrogative, imperative, and exclamative statements. Now, when we talk about verbs, we will also talk about verb moods, and they are similar. The mood helps us with the function of the sentence. So we use specific verb moods to make specific sentences. The first is the declarative sentence, as we looked at before. This is to make a statement. It usually ends in a, they always end with a full stop. It could be in any tense. And you are in what we call the indicative mood. So they use the indicative mood of the verb. So most of the sentences we covered before, compound, simple, compound, complex, usually are declarative sentences. These straightforward sentences with regular sentence structure are declarative. They're there to make a statement. The interrogative, like we said, is used to ask a question. This always ends in a question mark. And we change around the structure to make a, from a declarative sentence to make an interrogative sentence. So for example, a declarative sentence would be, I am late. The interrogative starts with the verb, am I late? In verbal communication, how we play with our pitch and tone will indicate whether it's a declarative sentence or an interrogative sentence. However, in writing, especially formal writing, we have to rely on the syntax. So let's look at the formula. To make an interrogative sentence, we start with an interrogative pronoun, an auxiliary verb, a subject, and a verb. So let's look at some examples. What is an interrogative pronoun? Are, an auxiliary verb. You, the subject. Doing, the main verb. The other example, how, interrogative pronoun. Did, auxiliary verb. James, subject. Get, verb. Here, adverb. So you see we switch. Instead of starting with the subject is now in the middle of the sentence. Imperative sentences how we give commands. They either end in a full stop or an exclamation point, depending on how urgent your your imperative sentence is. We also change the structure of a declarative sentence to make an imperative sentence. So the formula goes: second person verb, simple present tense, plus a participle, plus an object. So for example, sit down, verb, adverb. Stop the car, verb, object. Now, we do not have an overt or a stated subject, but typically the subject is you. You sit down. You stop the car. So when we're doing an imperative sentence, it's usually in conversation between two people. The second person in the conversation is the subject. Doesn't work if you're talking to about a third person. So John, sit down. We can't just say sit down. Once we say sit down, the subject is you. Exclamative sentence. This is to make an exclamation to show surprise or strong emotion. Usually ends with an exclamation mark. Again, we change the structure from a declarative sentence to make an exclamative sentence. So we start with an interrogative pronoun plus an adjective, noun, subject, verb, and we make our sentence. So again, you see we are switching. So instead of the subject being the first item, as in a declarative sentence, we start with the subject. Here, the subject is near the end. So for example, what, interrogative pronoun, cool, adjective, shoes, noun, subject, you, subject, have, verb. What cool shoes you have? If this was a declarative sentence, it'd be you have cool shoes. Any other example? How slowly James drives. How, interrogative pronoun, slowly, adverb, James, subject, drives, verb. Again, if this was a declarative sentence, James drives slowly. Let's also take a closer look at paragraphs. Again, to reinforce the video. And I'll skip down. So we talked about what a topic sentence is and what it does. It's the main idea of your paragraph. So it draws attention. It sums up what the paragraph is supposed to be about. It creates in your reader expectation that whatever you say in your topic sentence is what the paragraph should be about. So if you say today started off hectically but ended beautifully, the expectation is this paragraph would show how this happened, how it started off hectically, how it ended beautifully. We will not put any information about yesterday. We will not put in any information about tomorrow. This paragraph is only about the activities of today. So if you look at the explanation, example again, so I highlight the topic sentence in blue. This tells us we are going to talk about Brian and Brian as a bad student. Our expectation is that the paragraph will explain why Brian has proven to be disruptive, inattentive, and rude. So when we look at the supporting sentences, and I color-coded it here. So in the topic sentence, we have 3 things we need to discuss. He's disruptive, he's inattentive, and he's rude. So when you look at the color coding, all the sentences that are blue explain how he's disruptive. All the sentences that are green explain how he's inattentive. And all the sentences, or the sentence that is purple, explains how he is rude. So this is just a visual way of showing you how the sentences are grouped together. Again, so you get that flow and that organization. And like we said, for the clincher sentence, it sums up the paragraph, restates the main idea, and it should also lead you into the next paragraph. It sets up the expectation for what the next paragraph will be. So in the example, again, I color coded it. So we see how disruptive becomes continuous outbursts, inattentive becomes inability to focus, and rude becomes bullying behavior. You also notice how this clincher sentence points to what should be in the next paragraph, right? So the clincher sentence says it warrants serious attention and intervention. So I'm assuming the next paragraph after this will talk about either serious attention and talk about serious attention and intervention. Now, you assign one of your assignments for the next 2 weeks is writing an introductory paragraph. So just to get you familiar with the idea. Right. That was a bit of a marathon. Any questions so far?
No.
Okay.
So,
Excuse me, miss. Excuse me, miss. In the ABD writing, can you use like similes or metaphors, or strictly just straight language?
You can use similes and metaphors. You can always use similes and metaphors. Don't let your similes and metaphors obscure what you're trying to say.
Okay, miss.
Arnold, you were going to say something?
I was going to ask. Right. So for me, I don't know if it's my internet here was giving a bit of a problem, so I didn't catch a lot of stuff that was being said. I don't know. It's been cutting off and coming back on and all that. So going forward a bit. I mean, going back a bit. When they mentioned the essay that we have to write with the thesis statement, that's up on Canvas already, or?
Yeah, that's the assignment for the next 2 weeks, and you're writing an outline and an introductory paragraph.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So we have one more activity, and then question and answers and reflections takeaway for the day. So I want to split you up into groups and look and do a vocal delivery exercise, specifically looking at how.
Sure.
Dr. Francis?
Yes?
Quick question. How does the ABD relate to the topic sentences? Is it something similar? I find I saw like a kind of correlation between the ABD and having topic sentences and supporting details.
Well, having topic sentences and supporting details is any paragraph, any style you're going to write. Where you might be noticing the similarity is that when you do a formal essay like this, it is kind of like analysis by division, because you're taking any topic and you're breaking it down into smaller pieces and talking about each piece in a paragraph. So even if you're doing extended definition, process analysis, cause and effect, compare and contrast, when it comes to actually writing the essay, you are taking a overarching idea, which is your thesis, the main point of your essay, and you're breaking that main point into 3 sub-points, which will become each paragraph. So technically, it's not only for an ABD essay. With the ABD essay, each paragraph describes a division of that whole. So when we talk about, we're looking at how an organization might function, right? So let's say an organization needs an executive and a general body membership. It needs a president, it needs an executive board, and it needs a general body for the organization to function. So we analyze that the controlling principle is that the organization, let's say, raises funds for hospitals, right? And for it to raise funds for hospitals, it needs to have, sorry, I'm thinking on the fly, so if I start changing my answers, right? So in order for it to raise money for hospitals, it needs fundraising event committee. It needs a sponsorship committee, and it needs an Event Management Committee, right? So this is how this organization achieves its main goal of raising money for a hospital. It will set up a fundraising committee, and then we'll explain how the fundraising committee works in one paragraph. We will explain how a sponsorship committee works in in the next paragraph. Then we will explain how the events committee works in the third paragraph, right? If we were doing a cause and effect, right? Say we identifying 3 effects from a cause. This is the potential outcome. So if you pave the highway, it would reduce gas consumption. It will reduce wear and tear on vehicles, and it will increase productivity. So the main idea is that we should pave highways because it's beneficial. And then in each paragraph, I'm going to explain how it's beneficial. It's beneficial because it lowers gas emissions and gas usage, because you don't have to stop and start all the time. You don't have to take alternative routes that take longer. I can go from A to B in a straightforward way, and that will save me gas and time. It will be beneficial because it will be less wear and tear on the vehicle. I'm not going in 5 million potholes a day or playing pothole dodgery. So I don't have to be in by the mechanic all the time because my ball bearings are being worn down from all this excessive twisting and turning and trying to avoid potholes, or my suspension is not being damaged because I go down in too many potholes. And then the third way, it will increase productivity, because if I can get from A to B quicker, I will be on time. I won't have to leave early to beat the rush. So I will devote more time to my job or to my other activities and actually be a more productive person. So regardless of the mode you're using, the outline helps you break down that main idea into 3 main components, especially if you're talking about a 5-paragraph essay. So the 5-paragraph essay is introduction, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. So as we looked at the example, you start for the outline, you're starting with your main idea, your thesis statement, and then you're breaking that down into 3 main components, 1 each in your body paragraph. So I won't say no, it's not like an ABD, because technically it's the same process, but it's the process, and that's also probably why we start, the first mode we look at is analysis by division, because technically speaking, you are going to be analyzing things by breaking it down into different components. The components might change, it might be different causes, it might be different effects, it might be different reasons something is similar to something or something is different from something. It might be the 3 main steps you need to take to complete a process, and so on. So technically speaking, any essay you write is taking a large concept and breaking it down into at least 3 main points. So you're not wrong in spotting it like that. Just be careful that you are actually achieving the different functions and not just making everything an analysis by division, right? Our second to last thing, vocal delivery. So I'm going to split you up into groups of 4, and I want at least 2 people in each group, 1 at a time, to use vocal delivery tricks. Sorry, techniques, not tricks. That sounds wrong. Vocal delivery techniques to make a request to borrow something. And the listeners in the group, I want you to assess if the vocal delivery makes the person seem credible, trustworthy, and really look at how volume, rate, pitch, articulation, pronunciation affects how the message is received. Right? We will take 15 minutes. So that should be enough time for two people to make a request, and for you to judge the vocal delivery while they're making that request. And I will randomly assign you to a group. Okay? Any questions before we start? Y'all all get what you're supposed to be doing?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay, everyone's back?
Yeah.
Yes, miss.
Okay, so I like to go around and get feedback from at least 4 different groups, what the process was like, and their assessment of each speaker. So whichever groups would like to volunteer, when the group volunteers, everyone else turn off their camera, so and the group leave their cameras on. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So who wants to go first?
Okay, maybe
I
we
guess
can
go first, group 2.
Oh.
Okay. Group 2, and I didn't really see the box around the other person I was talking. So y'all are next, right? So group 2, take it away. Who made the request? What did you notice about their vocal delivery, and how did the vocal delivery inform whether the person was trustworthy and
Right. So the person that made request was Michaela.
okay?
She inferred that she was trustworthy by one, the rate that she spoke. It was concise, consistent. The pitch that she spoke at wasn't a low or aggressive pitch, but a sort of a high pitch as to sort of obtain sympathy. The volume wasn't loud or obnoxious. It was a soft volume, sort of draw you into her, so that it becomes sort of personal, between us now. She was clear. She pronounced all her words clearly. It came across clear, and it was easy to understand her request for this cell phone.
Okay.
And she was both fluent and articulate.
Colleen, you agree with those sentiments? Anything else you notice or want to add?
Well,
sorry.
From when she asked the question, she was more or less in a pleading tone. So she was at a point of carrying her voice down and saying, please, 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 And in that aspect, I realized that she caused me to want to lend me her phone then. right? Oh, sorry, other way around. So she caused me to want to give her my phone because the way she was speaking, she seemed like if it was for a desperate reason. So yes, I agree with
Okay.
what he said. Yes.
And Michaela, what tactics were you using with your vocal delivery?
So I try to speak in a very at a very soft volume to kind of convey friendliness, and I was trying to appear as I was pleading. I focused on enunciating every word, and I tried my best to speak fluently so that they would know I was a capable person and responsible enough to use their cell phone.
Okay, thank you. Did anyone else get to make a request?
Yes, Miss Arnold also made a request.
And what did you and Colleen? I'm not seeing Daniel, so I'll leave it up to you and Colleen. What did you make of the request?
Well, his requests, he came across quite assertive. He actually asked, well, what his request was about. He was asking to get a car borrow, and when he asked, he was very convincing in the sense that he was stating that he was a careful driver, and in that, and he tried to let us know that even the neighbors and all know that he's a good driver, more careful driver. So in that sense, he pulled you in to trust him to lend you him your vehicle, right? So his tone was not really pleading, but it was convincing.
Yeah, Miss. He had a very low tone of voice, very assertive, and it kind of brought through his seriousness and responsibility that made you feel, okay, I can lend this person my car and it will come back safely.
It had a lot to do with his pitch. His pitch was low, and like culturally, when you have that lower pitch, people tend to take you more seriously.
Yeah.
We associate a lower voice with an adult male, so we tend to add some kind of seriousness there. Arnold, what tactics were you using specifically?
Well, I intentionally spoke at a consistent rate so as to convey my message. Also, the pitch is essential. I spoke at a low pitch so as to create a sort of a stern, not rude, but assertive way of approaching or requesting the vehicle, right, from her. I wanted to be very clear. I tried to make it as clear as possible, so clarity. And I wanted to reassure her that once the car is loaned to me, it will be returned in the same condition that she would have given it to me in.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thanks.
So we're seeing here, especially when you talk to the two people making the request, what are the thought processes going through your mind when you have to do something like this? How you play with your voice. I had another volunteer. I didn't get to see what the square was around, but if you want, your group would like to go.
I volunteered. I'm not sure if my group ready.
Yes, we're here.
Right.
Okay, so go away. Take it away.
So Shelly was basically asking a simple request. She wanted to borrow a pair of shoes. Her tone was very modest. She wasn't demanding at all. You know, you could hear a little bit of desperation, but she was subtle with it. Sorry, yes, her pitch was a bit high but engaging. You got her message very clearly. And the pace of her request was slow and articulated. She didn't eat up her words. So you got the message. Her simple message was straight out to the point and persuasive. If I had to give her that shoes, I would have. So yeah.
And who else is in your who else would like to make a comment on?
Just step on.
Yeah, miss. You can hear me, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I would say I would agree with Ellie in all the things that she said just now, except for the I still wouldn't trust what she said. I mean, her pitch, tone, and all of those stuff indicated that she was very trusting, but her question itself, I guess, dictated whether or not I would trust her. I mean, it's a pair of shoes. Getting back their shoes. I'm gonna be honest, and I get it back. But other than that, if it wasn't for the question, I would have trusted her completely with anything she asked, because the way she spoke, the way she enunciated her words, pronounced it as well, it would have anybody believe her.
Okay. And Lilawati, what were the strategies you were using?
Okay, so I tried to be persuasive so that I could get the shoes. I tried to speak fluently and pronounce all my words. Yeah. And the pitch, I tried not to be that loud or so. I tried to be at a medium, speak at a medium pitch. Yeah.
Okay. And one more question, Ellie and Stefan. Do you think because her pitch is slightly higher, she seemed more innocent?
Yes, definitely. It definitely played a part in that trust. Like it just felt like it was a bit easier to trust her, even though her request was kind of odd.
Right. And did anyone else? Who else made a request in the group?
It was only her.
Only her. Okay. So we're getting to see how pitch in your vocal delivery can affect the outcome. And so with Arnold, we see the lower pitch comes across as more assertive or more with it, you know, you're in control. The higher pitch comes off as more innocent, more trust, you know, and so you're more likely to be sympathetic with that person. And that's partly biology because the higher pitch is associated with children. And so as it is our biological imperative, we want to protect children, so we transfer that when we hear a higher pitch, even when adults are speaking. We tend to want to nurture, to take care of, to facilitate. So the next time you have to ask somebody to borrow some money, let me do 2 more groups, and then we will close off with question and answers and comments. Don't all be shy, don't all jump at once, just 2 more.
Miss, you go.
Okay.
You want me to go ahead or you want me to go ahead and talk?
Yes. Anyone start?
All right. Okay. So in our group, Listra did the asking, the question. It was kind of a weird dynamic because I in turn end up asking her to do something. right? But she started off, her volume was loud and the rate was fast. So it came across a bit harsh because she was asking me to borrow a textbook. And, based on how she rushed it, I wasn't having it. I ended up turning around and asking her no, okay, I do not have a problem lending it to you, but I need you to ask better than that. So I turned around now and I articulated my words. I spoke in a softer tone. You know, she still didn't ask properly, and I still didn't lend the book at the end of the day. But basically that was it, because I felt rushed by how she spoke. I didn't lend her the book.
Okay. Amrika, do you agree?
Yes, I agree. Her rate was fast. Boy, she was in terms of when she was asking for the book. But on the other hand, Adafi was quite nicer. She was willing to lend her only if she would have asked nicely. So I agree.
Okay. And Shanika?
Yes, I agree as well. Listra tone was loud, brief, and clearly stated, and Adafi was just calm and quiet, and you're just putting Listra in her place.
Okay. So Listra, what were the techniques you were using?
Well, I was harsh. I had clarity, and my tone, my pitch was very high.
So, you were doing that on purpose to show how things could go wrong, or?
Yes, yes.
So again, especially rate. Usually when someone is trying to pull something over on you, we speak faster so that you don't catch everything we're saying. So if, for example, when you're watching TV, pay attention to any commercial for medication. And you will notice when they start to list the side effects, they rattle off the side effects as quickly as possible. So you're not hearing everything, right? Is the verbal equivalent of the fine, the fine print. When they tell you beware the fine print, because you have all the exceptions in that fine print. So it's the verbal equivalent. When we speed up and we start talking too fast and you don't know what we're saying. So we're hiding something there. And that's the instinct we have. And so when you approach something speaking that quickly, you actually come off less trustworthy, less credible, because we think you're trying to pull a fast one, as they say, right? Did anyone else in the group make a request? Now, Adafi, you made a follow-up request, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
The only one I didn't hear from, Listra, what did you think of her request?
Well, she was more polite. She was trying to let me know, well, if you want a book borrow, you should ask in a proper manner. So, she was clear as well, and her tone was low. And, well, I understood. So
remember, and we were talking about in vocalics, the idea of synchronizing. I forget the actual term, but it starts with synchronizing. It's basically synchronizing, where we get the one party to mirror our tone, our pitch, our rate, our volume. So in your conversation, you came in high pitched with a fast rate, seemed aggressive, and she was trying to redirect your tone by using a lower pitch, slowing her rate, and being more even.
Yeah.
Right? So these are also tactics we use. So if you're in doing a public presentation, for example, and someone, and this actually happens in conferences quite a bit, they try to put you in your place by asking an aggressive question, you can be in control, and through your pitch, rate, and volume, you can take command by slowing it down and forcing that person to mirror your vocal delivery. Right? Let me do one more. Thank you so much. Let me do one more group, and then we will go around questions or takeaway and/or takeaway. Right? So one more.
Would like to go next.
Go ahead. Right. Right.
With the other members. Oh, I see in Crystal. Okay. Crystal, you could start. Crystal, you could start.
Okay, so myself, I was one of the speakers, and I asked to borrow a pencil, right? So I indicated, excuse me, may I borrow your pencil? Pretty please. I assure you that I will return it when I am finished, right? So there were 3 members in our groups, and the other 2 persons were supposed to indicate what they got from the message.
All right. So when Crystal spoke, she spoke in a very high tone, not overly high, but high enough. She sounded sweet. She spoke very slowly, but not too slow. It sounded like she wanted to make sure that you heard what she was asking for. She said please and thank you, and she let you know for sure when she's done that she would return it. Reason being is because I did my own first and I did the complete opposite. Well, she and Naomi could tell you about that.
Okay. Naomi?
Okay, so with Caprice's speech, I found her rate, it was guaranteed. She assured you that she needed a pencil, right? So she was very much convincing. Her volume was very assertive. She was very loud in a sort of demanding way. Her pitch it wasn't high, it wasn't low, it was just like, yeah, well, I'll borrow your pencil and give me a pencil. If it lost, it lost. If it didn't lost, well, all right, I would just give it back. Her articulation, her words were not very clear because she was speaking dialect, but you got the message. You understood what she wanted. Her fluency, she was quite confident, so she spoke quickly, but there was no authority. She had no accountability for her actions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Crystal, you agree?
Hello?
Yeah. Do you agree with Naomi's assessment? That
No,
was Crystal.
That was me.
I'm asking Crystal about Capri.
Yes, miss.
Okay. So Crystal,
Hi, miss.
What were the techniques you were trying to use?
I was trying to be okay because Caprice was so assertive and aggressive. I tried to be sincere. I tried to show responsibility, accountability. I assure you that yes, I needed this pencil, but at the end of the day, I am going to give it back to you. And it's not that I will take it and just have it misplaced and not return or anything like that.
Right. So how did you use, for example, pitch and volume and articulation to convey that?
So my pitch was, okay, so with pitch, it's whether it was high or low, right? So I would say the pitch was more of a high pitch, right? In the sense that I wanted to show like pity, like for her to have pity for me because I really needed this pencil. My volume, I wasn't loud. I think the volume was at a regular tone. It wasn't loud, it wasn't very low. Articulation, I would say that I spoke formally, not dialect, as she would have spoken.
Okay. I just want to clarify that you can be articulate and speak dialect.
Okay.
Articulation is using the appropriate parts of your mouth to make the sound correctly.
Okay.
Right? So in dialect, we would say, what happened? What happened? What happened to you? We will actually pronounce the different letters. Depending on the setting, and we actually run the words together. But even whether you're speaking dialect or standard English, articulation is actually putting your tongue in the correct place to form the letter sound. Y'all can I don't want to really go into teaching phonetics and linguistics, but there are certain positions where you put your tongue, how you hold your lips, where you draw breath from, whether or from using only your vocal cords or open your nasal register. These are all physical things you can do, and they all affect articulation, whether you're speaking standard English or dialect, right? So if you listen to the Mighty Duke, for example, he's singing calypso, he's singing Trinidadian idioms, Trinidadian vernacular, but he pronounces every single letter. So his articulation, not his dialect, his articulation is very very formal, very proper, very structured, because he's taking the time to make the appropriate sounds, whether he's speaking dialect or whether he's speaking standard, right? So I hope this was an interesting group assignment, a group experience, listening to how people manipulate their voice for something specific. So the next time you have to go ask a friend or a relative for money, play with your pitch. The higher the pitch, the slower you talk, the more innocent you sound. Right? The lower your pitch, even frequency, fluency rather, and rate, you sound assertive, you sound confident, right? So if you're asking them to invest in a business, you probably would want a lower pitch, fluency, articulation. You want to manipulate those things so that you sound not just trustworthy, but competent, right? So the last thing, we will just go around and look for 10 volunteers. Unless 10 volunteers for your major takeaway. If you have a question, now is the time. The floor is open for questions and answers. Anybody. So at least volunteers.
I have a question.
Yes.
Regarding the assignment, would we be given a topic or we have to come up with a topic ourselves?
The assignment has 3 topics.
Oh, so you just choose?
Yes.
Or you'll be given? Just choose?
Just choose.
Okay, no problem.
Oh, hi, Miss. I'm seeing on Canvas, it's due the 17th. I think that is Friday.
Saturday.
Yeah, sorry, I have to adjust the dates. It should be because we're taking 2 weeks to talk about the analysis by division. So that assignment should take you 2 weeks. At least 2 weeks. So
I also saw the read aloud exercise. I saw that you closed that off. Was that supposed to be? Is it gonna? Are you gonna open it again, or was it supposed?
It's not supposed to be closed. It's not supposed to be closed.
It's saying that it's closed.
Okay, well, I have to adjust that as well. And the read aloud is really just find an article, preferably like an editorial in a newspaper or a magazine. Find it and record yourself reading it. If you're reading it quote unquote blind, it's the first time you're reading it, it's not a piece you're used to, right? So you're encountering it and you're reading it aloud. And the idea here is when we read aloud, especially for editing purposes, but in general, reading aloud builds our confidence in speaking, being able to pronounce words, drawing from our experience. When we're editing, when we read things aloud, we hear mistakes better than if we're just looking at it. It brings it to life. So getting you accustomed to reading aloud, hearing yourself read aloud, and understanding how you go through the process, right? So that is just an audio recording. You don't have to do a video, just an audio recording of you reading something. Let's say at least 3 paragraphs of something.
And that will be due when?
That should be due, I'll put that for by next week class time.
Okay, so like next week, Tuesday.
Yes, so I mean, it really is just to find something to read, record
Okay.
it. Do not re-record yourself. Just record the first line reading and then listen to it and hear and see what you hear and what you assess. And we've gone through vocal delivery and all the non-verbals, the paralinguistics. So you can use those ideas or items to assess how you sound when you read aloud. Okay?
So it's supposed to be a recording and you assess it?
Yes.
How long does have to be? A paragraph is fine?
A paragraph is fine.
Okay.
So,
And oh, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to know if after we record it, we have to see it whether it's a pitch or we put in that as well in the video as well and then uploading it to you.
Well, yeah, it's an audio recording, so you don't have to do a video. You could just, do a voice note if you have something. Do a voice note and upload that. And write a paragraph, I noticed in listening to myself, my pitch, drops at certain words or picks up in certain words. And, I was trying to add emphasis by adding volume here or lowering volume here and so on and so on. So.
Okay, thank you.
Miss, and one more question. The discussion, I think it's discussions for this class. You have discussions for this class, right? Discussion. What exactly are we supposed to do? I've never had a discussion section in a class before.
Oh, you see, like when you respond to things on Facebook, so someone posts something and then you respond, or you post something and someone responds and you respond to their response. Same thing.
So anybody could post anything and then the class could just comment on it?
So it will have a specific topic. So your first post will be your response to that topic, what you think about the topic, and then people can respond to you and you can respond to them and keep the conversation going.
So the discussions haven't started yet?
I think the first discussion is the videos. The different videos of examples of vocal delivery and assessing the vocal delivery.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Mr.
Miss, just to add.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, just to add to that assignment questions. Okay, so I have open here the assignment details, right? So you have 1 through to 6 points. point 1, 2, 3, and 4 is related to the introductory paragraph. Point 5, it states in a separate document, how would you grade yourself objectively? And point 6 is pick 2 submissions from your colleagues and post a peer assessment. How will that work?
So on Canvas, we can assign peer reviews. It's automatically generated. You get a notice that you have 2 peer reviews. Usually after the initial due date, it opens up for peer review. And your peer review could be as simple as a paragraph, oh, I think this was well written, or you could be as detailed. If you were the instructor, how would you grade that submission, right? Now, the idea with the peer review, as with almost everything you do for this class, it has a benefit for you. Typically, the more we edit other people's things, the more we can spot errors in our own writing. So the more we assess other people, the easier it becomes for us to assess ourselves. So it's a learning mechanism as well, right? So while I would say don't be unnecessarily cruel in your peer review, be honest. If you see mistakes, if you see flaws, point them out in a constructive way, right? So I noticed this person tends to use a lot of green verbs. That might be something they need to look at. Or sentence, that third paragraph doesn't really have anything to do with the thesis. So it's a little confusing why it's there. So this will help you being able to spot mistakes and then transfer that to your own writing. And it will also help the other person. There might be a mistake that they didn't notice. So something they could go and correct and make a move from. Right?
Thank you.
Yes, miss.
Yes?
I have a question. It's regarding the last assignment. Well, it was uploaded as by one individual, but I'm looking on Canvas and I'm seeing that it says one thing outstanding. That should I take no notice of that or?
No, ignore it. It was my fault. I did not make it a group assignment before the end of the due date, and now it won't let me make it a group assignment at all.
Just take no notice of it.
Right. So yeah, you will get the grade. Don't worry about that.
Excuse Miss.
Yes?
Danielle Alfred said that this is her first class and she missed 2 assignments already.
Yes. I was about to address that. This is half and half, so you can go back through old material at your own pace. And the assignments are usually open after the due date because we're living in a time where TNTech can do what the hell it wants with us.
True.
We won't always have internet when we need it.
Yes, miss.
And so I cannot penalize you for something that's out of your control. So I give a little leeway in that, right? So I usually have the assignments open later. And if it is, because I know we have a couple students who joined late, might have missed some assignments. If it is closed, let me know and I will open it for you. I can do that as well. I can open it for specific students, right? So try as much as possible to make the deadline. If something happens, an alien lands in your backyard, TNTech decides to take power right as you press submit button or whatever, right? Let me know. One, it will be open past the due date just in case something like that happens. 2, if it closes off and there was a lot of circumstances and you could not submit on time, let me know and I can open it for you to submit. Right?
No problem, miss.
Right.
Miss, and when will we be receiving the marks for that assignment?
I started marking it today. It will be finished before the end of the week. It's really
you think it was? Because most of us, like myself and my partner, we not tech savvy now. So it was a lot of back and forth into learning how to develop this video and what mechanisms to use. So what was your feedback like seeing some of them? Was it, what
I've seen so far is that you will make very innovative teachers. Some of the videos were, what I've seen so far, quite entertaining in how they interpret what needs to be done, as well as also being able to deliver proper information, valid information. It's all a learning curve. I'm pretty sure 2021, let me see, you'll be graduating in 2024, 23, 24.
It's 5 years, I think.
It's 5 years?
Yeah.
Part-time is 5 years.
Oh, part-time?
Yeah, I'm part-time, yeah.
So either 2024 or 2025 then, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure by then, Zoom, PowerPoint, videos is going to be the standard. That's where we're moving, right? So you're getting a head start. You're getting a leap by figuring out some of these things. I only learned to do PowerPoint videos because, you know, I tell people I'm a very idle person and I just do things for doing things. But also, we're increasingly visual learners, right? Most of us come from a generation where we were sat in front of TV. We acquired information by watching Sesame Street.
Yep.
We like videos, we like music, we like movement. And I try to mix movement and reading. So I started doing these videos so that you know, we could get a different medium in instructing, because trust me, repeating what a noun is 5 times a day is not good. So at least to ensure that everyone gets the exact same rate, pace, and explanation, I do that one video, right? So it's a good learning experience. I'm not going to fault you if it's choppy or if it's in and out. As long as I can hear something, I can hear and make out what you're saying, I can see what you're doing, I can read it clearly. I don't have a problem with the production value, right? You will learn tricks.
Miss, while you were digging up in the PowerPoint, by chance, did you figure out how to record and upload on the PowerPoint?
To record what, you like a video?
Like in my case with our group work, we tried to upload a recording of ourselves demonstrating something, and it was not, we weren't able to access it, or even to go to documents and say, okay, if we had recorded it somewhere else and then sent it, and to upload it from documents, because we couldn't use the offline version of it and we had to use the online one. And well, you know, they wanted us to purchase the whole thing.
Yes. I know with I know through Canvas you should have access to PowerPoint and Word and those kind of things, because they have Microsoft 360, 350 on there. But what I actually found is that YouTube is your friend. If you have a Gmail account, you have a YouTube account, and you can upload videos there. You can mark it as unlisted, so only people you share the link with would actually see the video. So not any random person will come across your video and see it or share it. And so especially when you're doing large file videos, that helps a lot. If you're trying to just transfer a video from one person, one computer to the next, they have WeTransfer. That helps a lot. and we transfer again. Either we'll send the file or send a link to the file so the person could open it and download it. I know with Gmail, with Google Docs, I have my private email is attached to my Google Docs and my Google Drive. And so if I use another email to access it, it asks for permission to do all kinds of stuff, and it's a lot of hassle. But I would recommend because most likely when you have to do, well, no, you're doing the presentations individually. I'm thinking of next year, if you'll do when you'll do 1008, you'll have to do group presentations. And we might be in the situation again to do group presentations. And it would be easier then if one person constructs the PowerPoint and you upload and you share the videos to that one person so they can download and put it in the PowerPoint, make the PowerPoint, and then upload it, right?
Excuse me, miss.
Yes?
May I say something? She was not talking about the videos. She was talking about voice recording, like to record your voice and upload it to the PowerPoint.
Okay. The easiest way, actually the easiest way is to narrate. Well, if I'm thinking of this issue working as a group and then working separately, so you have to send files, I would say you narrate the slide. And when it should work, when you copy it, if you send it to someone and they download it, they can copy and paste it into a master PowerPoint document. So well, y'all know what I mean by narrate the slide, right? So yeah,
Talk through it.
So when you when you click on the slideshow tab, and let me see, let me open one. Let me open it.
Yes, miss, there's a rehearsal option.
Right, so there are two things you can do. Come on, my office, open quickly. Right, let's look at this. All right, so when you go to the very top, so when you click on slideshow, and when you see record slideshow, so what happens if I'm recording a slide? If I click start or from the beginning or start from current slide or wherever, when I press that button, it will go into presentation mode and I will be speaking, recording a script, and then pressing the button to advance how I need to advance or whatever. So for the videos I made for class, for example, I would do start recording from the beginning. I actually have a script next to me and I'm reading out the script and clicking when I need to click. So I'm syncing what I'm saying to the animation on the slide. Now, if you do that and you record each individual slide and you share it, send it WeTransfer or email it, the person should then be able to copy and paste your slides into a main PowerPoint document. That would be my troubleshoot for now.
Miss, on the Windows 10, it's not like that.
No?
I agree. I didn't see that either on my Windows 10. No.
I don't know. I don't know. I have this. That was This is I think 2016. So I don't know what the updated.
The updated one has plenty restrictions.
There's also Prezi, but I'm not sure how Prezi works exactly. But Prezi is an online platform. Y'all ever heard of Prezi? Prezi.
No, miss.
Does UCT offer like a introductory class to these different programs? Do they offer anything like that?
Not that I know of. Most of them are pretty intuitive though, so you can kind of get a hang of it. So Prezi, here, there's a free version. They allow you if you're a student, right? And you can click on different templates and you could actually make a presentation. Let me see if I can find an example, right? You can click on it and it will allow you to edit. So what this means is something you can do online, so it should be easier to share. So it lets you do different things. No, I don't want your app. I just want to do stuff. No, I don't want to watch your videos. Not having a good time with this at the moment. These are example videos. I don't want example videos. I want to build. I don't want it. There are other options that you can share, you can use to make things. Again, I haven't played around with Prezi. I know it exists. I haven't played around with Prezi before. So I can't tell you the nitty-gritty of it. All I know is that it is online. And so there's a possibility of building all these things online if you have a group project, right? And you see it's dynamic. It's slightly more upscale than just PowerPoint. But again, I am self-taught, so I fully assume people, if they want to learn the technology, you just sit down with it and you try doing things with it. This was a good first example. There are adjustments to be made because of COVID. I haven't really figured out how to make those adjustments just yet because I haven't been challenged per se. But yeah, I know I can do that. I have full faith in you and your ability as young people to grasp things and develop and adapt. Right? Any other questions? And I see we have 5 minutes left. When did that happen? So last round of questions, or at least 2 reflections before we leave. Yes?
I found I was able to marry the last assignment with today's class in terms of the delivery and stuff now. Different, like the vocalics and all that. I was able to marry that concept with what was done today. So I feel as though I said, okay, that's the method now. That's where Mrs. heading. So it was very clear. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any others? We have 4 minutes. I'm not used to taking the full 3 hours, so I'm amazed at myself actually. So, anyone else? Anyone I haven't heard from today? Naja?
Yes, miss.
Any questions or reflections before we leave?
All right, baby, just now. Sorry, miss?
Any questions or reflections before we leave?
No questions. Reflection was the introduction, body, what we use. It was really good to reiterate that, because you know, long time you didn't go over, you didn't watch it, go over, remember the steps of essay. It was good to reflect on that.
Okay, thank you. And one more. Desha?
But I spoke, I miss. It's not that I didn't. I actually I saw the similarities, but that's okay. It was interesting, this ABD. I mean, I'm eager to go and try it now, and see where it takes me. A lot of the things that you showed, I was aware of it, like the declarative, but I say declarative, right? I don't pronounce it like you, exclamatory, interrogative, and what's the other one? Something what last one I forget. It's 4, right?
Yes. Exclamative, which I think is an American word, so I use it with hesitation, but yeah.
Yeah, but it was interesting, and about the compound, simple, and complex sentences was just a refresher for me. So it was really interesting. Just one question, if not related to this particular topic that we did tonight, but regards to the assignment that you said you're going to bleed on, even though it's not for marks. I'm not too sure if others are eager to get feedback as to how they write it, and that could at least, you know, show if we are on the right path for this other assignment that we're going to do. Yeah.
Yes. Not making any promises. I'm getting to it. It doesn't count towards your final grade. It's just something for me to measure your progress against. I'm trying to work through it, but I'm also trying to triage. So when we have assignments that affect your grade, I try to get that out. Right? For my, and I make all the excuses in the world for my 5 different classes. So when I have an assignment that impacts the grade in any of those classes, that takes top priority, and then I go back to the writing sample.
Understood.
So, okay. Thank you so much. This was a marathon session. Thank you for sticking with it, and I will see you next week, Tuesday, please God.
Okay, miss. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye. Bye. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Miss, one more thing. I came in late because I didn't have current. So would I be present for this class? How would that work?
Yeah, you're on the screen, you're present.
Okay, good.